right, hey guys. This is Dan. It's kind of a first for the YouTube. We are doing um a demo, uh, kind of getting the convention experience as we all kind of miss not being able to go to conventions. Uh, I'm here with Brian from what W with West Virginia Gamers, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And he's going to be showing me and showing us a little bit of this new game that is uh, coming soon to Kickstarter, about a week, and it's called Skeptics. Um, and it's very appropriate for the season we're in. Um, and I guess I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about um, the game and how and where the game kind of came from. From I know you're not the designer, but give maybe the best idea of what the idea behind it.
Absolutely. So, about 5 years ago, John kind of just had this idea that he wanted to make a game, and he's an art teacher, so he does a lot of a lot of his classes are about game design and whatnot. So,
Mhm.
at some point, he just kind of had this idea that he wanted to make a game, and he was trying to figure out what type of theme. And for one reason or another, one of his friends mentioned this. I think it came in as something a little different, and then finally it started taking shape once he kind of had a theme to it. And over 5 years, it's been play tested at a lot of conventions, a lot of different local events for him, and uh, through the Indie Game Alliance program that works with smaller publishers to try to get their games out. Uh, kind of just all all added up to allow for this game to finally get into the form that you see now. And as you mentioned, it will be coming to Kickstarter next week, so hopefully we can kind of show you how this game works and get your interest, and maybe you'll go and check it out.
Yeah, so we can jump right in now. The game is uh, normally 4 players.
It can be ran 1 to 4 players. When you play it as
Okay.
when you play it in solo, you'll actually just play as additional investigators. You'll at
Okay.
least want to play a second investigator to uh, give yourself a little more of a chance. I'm sure you can go in by yourself, but I don't know if we've play tested it for just a single investigator. I don't think it would go over so well, just because at certain points in the game, a ghost is going to appear, and if you're not where it is, you're not going to do so well. So, by having multiple investigators in the on the map, you increase your chances of winning and proving that the ghost exists.
Okay. So I guess you can go ahead and dive right in and give us a rundown of how the game works.
Absolutely. So you all are taking on the role of paranormal investigators. To you, obviously, you know that there's ghosts, you know the paranormal exists, but there's a lot of skeptics out there, and they need hard evidence to be proven to them that there is actually ghost out there. So you've been going to various places in your paranormal career, investigating career, and you haven't found much. You found things that convinces you, but not the hard evidence that's going to convince others. But there's something different about this place. There's just you think that this might be the real thing. So, what's going to happen is you all are going to play one of the 4 investigators. Uh, right now, they are all equal characters. There's no abilities or anything like that. We are looking into that for maybe a future mini expansion, but right now,
Hmm.
everybody's equal. So, what's going to happen is you're going to be going through this asylum, and there is 2 maps. So there's a second side to this as well. You're going to be going through this asylum and looking for uh, evidence of the supernatural. The way you're going to win this game is by finding enough proof that allows you to perform an investigation and prove different aspects of the ghost. Like basically, you're collecting different uh, pieces of evidence, I guess is the way to say it. There's probably some
Hmm.
other word I should be using, but basically, you're going to be performing actions that's going to allow you to place these little blue cubes onto each of these little markers. And this is what's going to indicate your progress in the game. Once you've managed to put these markers on every single one of these spaces before time runs out, you win the game. But you
Okay.
are racing against the clock because there are a limited number of rooms in the asylum, and he or she is only going to appear one time in each room. So over here on the right side of the board, we'll have all of our different cards. There's a room deck with 20 cards. You'll notice there are 20 numbered rooms on the board. Depending on your player count, a number of these cards are going to be removed from this deck. That means how many ever cards are left is how many full rounds you're going to have. And full rounds is basically going to be once the clock hits midnight a number of times. So let's say we take out half of them. That means you're only going to have 10 hours or 10 days, however you want to count the time, to be able to find the ghost. And every time you draw a card, the ghost is going to appear. So we'll get into a little more of those specifics here in a bit. So what's going to happen is you're going to, on your turn, you're going to have 3 action points available to you. We call them actions in the book, but it's a little easier to explain as action points. And with those action points, you're going to have a number of actions available to you. And we have these little player references to kind of show you what those actions are. So you have a move action or run action. So moving is simply going to allow you to move between the threshold of these different rooms. So let's say I'm the yellow player. That is one of my 3 actions on my turn. Moving here is going to be 2, and then any other actions will be my 3rd. Now, later in the game, when this area is way more open because there's locked doors and whatnot, you'll be able to perform runs. Basically, that means if you spend all 3 of your actions performing movements, you'll be able to actually move a 4th space because you're doing nothing but moving, so you're able to get a little bit further.
Okay.
The next thing is unlocking. So like I mentioned, a lot of these doors are locked. So what you'll need to do is pick the lock so you can get into those rooms. So you'll see that there's 2 doors here. On your turn, whenever you just choose to do one of these actions, you'll simply say, I'm going to unlock the bottom door or the top door. You need to specify because it may matter based on your roll. What you'll do is you'll grab these green dice that I have here at the bottom corner. You'll select them and give them a roll. What you're looking for is a number of key icons equal to whatever is shown on that door. The door that we're looking at requires 2, so I did not get it. But you will have the ability to perform re-rolls if you have actions left over. I'll explain that in just a minute because all the re-roll abilities kind of work the same. So let me explain one other type of roll before we get there. So you'll notice there's these little blue symbols on the map that's always beside these little tokens. So these search tokens are what you're trying to go and uncover. There are 4 things that are going to be on these covers, or these tokens. There will be nothing here, simply saying you found no evidence here, there's nothing to be found, you'll just discard those tokens. You will find ones that say the word item, and that will represent items that you can collect, which is in the item deck. And there's 10 items in the base game. And those items are going to give you different features such as, let me flip a few over, like we have the optic camera, we have the skeleton key, and we'll just flip over one more. Hopefully that gives us a little variety. So the optic camera, once per turn, you gain a free solve or prove action. Basically, there's going to be items in the game that are going to simply give you free actions that you can perform without using one of your 3 available action points. So that's what this is doing. It's giving you the ability to perform a solve or a prove action, which we haven't discussed yet. But basically, you'll be able to do one of those simply for free. The skeleton key will allow you to re-roll keys. So where I was just mentioning that there will be ability to do re-rolls, this is one way that you'll get a free re-roll on your turn. And then the skeleton key will allow you, or the key ring will allow you to have 1 additional die to your inventory. So we're only rolling 3 currently, but there are 1 extra green and 2 extra blue dice. So items and other abilities in the game will allow you to roll more of those. So that's what the item is that's going to flip over under those little search markers. You also have special items that are one-time use items. So where items can be used over and over and over, these are very powerful items that will have one use throughout the game. So I'll flip over just a couple of these. In each loadout of the game, you're going to have access to 3 of these, unless you want to make it more difficult on yourself and put less in. So like the Spectral Stone allows you to look at the top room card. Basically gives you a little bit of information, then it'll be shuffled into the top 3. This one will allow time to go backwards. So, backwards. So, but then you have to discard it. So that's what the special items are. The final thing that may come up from these little search tokens is going to be up here at the top of the screen. You may find something that says a clue. Now, where I mentioned you're trying to uncover evidence of the supernatural or the paranormal, these are what you're going to need to do that. So whenever you find a clue, you'll replace the little search marker that's in that room with one of these little typewriters, and then the other typewriter will go on the card. That's telling us basically what room that piece of evidence is in. What you're going to do is perform a special roll with the blue dice to solve the clues. And that basically is just you're going to roll the dice and try to match those symbols. And I'll talk more about that here in just a second as well. And every time you finish up one of these clues, you get to go down here to below the ghost card. And you get to flip over one of these pieces of evidence. Basically, the evidence is going to line up with these little symbols at the bottom of the ghost card. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's basically what 4 things are going to be underneath of these little search tokens. So to be able to reveal those search tokens, you're going to take the blue dice and try to roll to match at least the symbol that's shown on beside the piece of or the marker that you're trying to uncover. So you'll take those dice, give them all a roll. And if you at least meet the minimum of what's required, you'll go up, you'll flip the little marker over, and do whatever it's telling you. So this is telling you to grab an item. You grab an item card, put it in your inventory, and throw this little token away. Or back into the box, whichever way you want to do it. So now that I've kind of went over the 2 basic types of rolls, you can perform re-rolls. What that means is if you have extra actions left on your turn, you can simply re-roll any number of the dice that you previously rolled. So let's say I needed 2 cameras and an eye. I can re-roll this 1 eye to try to get that. And if I don't, then if you have actions left, you can still try to do that. But that's the basic premise of re-rolls. Same thing happens with the green dice. In the beginning of the game, those are going to be your 3 main actions that's going to come up. You're going to be performing those and trying to collect as much items to help your investigation and uncover as many clues as you can. So before I go on, does that pretty much make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, yeah.
All right. So the next action that's listed on the player reference card is solve. That's what I was referencing earlier on those little clue cards above the board. Basically, you're performing the same type of action as a search, but it's called a solve, still using the blue dice. But basically, the reason this solve, and there's a proof one down below that's going to be used for the actual ghost card, the reason they're named differently is to allow you to have different items in the game that benefit you in different ways. So there will be items like over here, this optic camera. This gives you free solve and prove actions, but not search actions. But there are special items that give you search actions as well. So it's allow us to kind of give the investigators abilities based on the items. So that's basically the first 4. Pick up, give, and exchange an item. What this is over the course of the game, you can exchange those items that you collect. And sometimes you'll have to go over here and grab these little item flashlights, because you can actually only carry 3 items at a time, and then any number of special items. So sometimes you'll see these little icons on the board, and you have to go and pick up those items to put them into your inventory. Also, if you're on the same space as another investigator, you can simply trade the item. and whatnot. There is one special space on the board that also requires a pickup action, and that's this little yellow magnifying glass here.
Hmm.
So this will allow you to pick up one of the magnifying glass items that's on the side of the board. What these are is they are special items that you can come back here. It's like this drawer has an unlimited amount of these for some reason. But basically, you have 3 special uses to grab an additional blue die to help you with any of your search, solve, and prove actions. These don't work on the green unlock dice, but basically you can put a little marker, or in the physical game you'll just rotate it to show what number you have left. In this one we just grab like the little red cubes and place on them just to kind of indicate. But basically, these would just give you extra blue dice, and you can always come back here and get more. You can carry one of these normally at a time. You can't just stockpile them in your pocket. Prove basically works the same way as I mentioned with the search and solve actions. You're just basically going to go over to the ghost and decide which one of these blue icon sets you want to solve, and you're going to roll the dice just like you would with the other actions to try to fulfill those. And when you fulfill them, you'll just put one of these little blue cubes on them. Now, there are some special symbols, like this little clock symbol on the card. Anytime you fail to do it in a single roll, you'll go up here and grab one of these little clock tokens. And once you collect 3 of those, time will advance 15 minutes. We'll talk time in a few. So that is the prove action pull. So, okay, let's talk about how time is going to work. So you're going to be running through this location, and after all players have taken their turn, you're going to go up here to the clock and advance the clock forward 15 minutes. Once the clock hits midnight, things start happening. This is when the paranormal starts messing with the investigators. First thing that's going to happen at midnight every turn is one of these environment cards are going to be revealed. These generally are going to do something to hinder the investigation efforts. So like this one, for the next hour, players lose one of the summon dice for all actions that require a summon dice. Those are white dice we haven't talked about, but basically this is going to make the actions that's associated with that type of dice harder. There'll be other ones that'll come out that may require icons that are on the blue dice to be one step higher, because on the blue dice there's 3 eyes, 2 cameras, and 1 cobweb. Obviously, getting cobwebs is going to be harder, and on some of these environment cards, it upgrades the eyes to cameras, making it very difficult to fulfill those. There'll be ones that'll knock you out, and other things like that. Once you perform whatever that action is, you'll grab a room card. On the room card, it'll be numbered 1 to 20. You will go and grab the little ghost token that's over here and place it in that room. You'll also take a little red marker, place it in that room, just as a reminder that the ghost will never appear here again in future rounds. Now that the ghost is here, all the investigators really want to get into that room to be able to start knocking out these prove actions to collect the evidence that they need to finish their investigation. So, obviously, with a room, a place this large, it might be difficult to get everywhere. So, what you may have to do is special actions such as a pull action. Over the course of the game, as you collect these little evidence tokens, you also collect these little white dice over here. These are used for summoning actions and pulling actions. What you'll do is you'll just give them a roll. If even one of the dice show the summoning symbol for a pull, the ghost will be pulled spaces closer to you. If there's a closed door between you and it can only go through the door. But if it's like in an open hallway, let's get this little token out of here, it can be pulled 2 spaces. 1, 2. So, and you can perform that multiple times on a turn if you're really far away. But if you fail to roll a summoning symbol on one of these pulls, the ghost immediately vanishes. preventing you from being able to do anything with the ghost on that hour. Now, you are able to do summons, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that basically forces it to spawn on a non-midnight hour, or time point in time. It works the same way. You roll the dice. If you get a summon symbol, you'll draw a card, and it'll appear somewhere in the asylum in that wherever that number shows. And then you'll be able to pull it, perform a free pull action, just pulling it 1 or 2 spaces closer to wherever you are. And let's see what else. That's the summon, that's the pull. So we've gone over the basic actions. Once you've uncovered all of the necessary seance symbols on a ghost, things get a little different. Let's flip over those real quick. Yeah, come on, one more. There we go, got them all. So once this happens, the game changes drastically. Where the ghost would only spawn at midnight, it's now going to spawn every time the clock moves. So every 15 minutes, the ghost is going to appear, depleting that deck much, much faster. That's called ghost mode. During ghost mode, basically you've got to work with your team to come up with a very good strategy to be able to be wherever this ghost is going to be. Now, obviously, you have a little bit of clues where it's going to not be because of these little red tokens, but basically that's when you basically have to focus on getting the ghost and not worry about these little tokens around the board. Ghost mode will also happen if all of the clue cards at the top of the board are also flipped over. Basically, even if you haven't solved all of them, as soon as the 7th one appears, this ghost mode also happens. And basically from that point, you just need to be able to find the ghost. Now, at the beginning of one turn after this, you've collected all these seance symbols and ghost mode has started, you can perform a seance and summon the ghost to the room that you are in. I recommend making sure all the players are in the same space, so then you can just all kind of attack it with prove actions, and that just instantly happens. But it's a once per game ability, so making sure you have the right items equipped and everybody's where they need to be makes the seance more successful. And that is kind of the most of the game. I mean, you're focused on going through and uncovering things, and there's some symbols I haven't talked about, but I'm not going to go over absolutely everything. But for the most part, that's going to be kind of the feel. Now, there are 2 maps, like I mentioned. There's the Asylum and there's the Museum. We only have the digital version of the Asylum up just because we want to keep some mystery. But there is also 6 ghosts included in the game. Each of them are very unique because they'll have obviously different symbols that you'll have to solve. But also each ghost has a ghost hour ability and a lingering effect. The ghost hour ability basically whenever it appears during the ghost hour at midnight, this special action happens. Like this one, any of the doors that's adjacent to the child ghost slam shut, relocking. Others, there's like a poltergeist where you'll put blue cubes in all the adjacent rooms that you have to spend an action to push through to get into the ghost's space, and so on. Then there's lingering effects that kind of last anytime the ghost is out. In this case, this is an easy ghost to beat. That's why its difficulty is easy. But basically, the only thing that's different in this one's lingering effect is you have these 4 eye icons that you must solve before you can perform prove actions on the rest of the icon sets on the card. And so each of them are very different. We have varying difficulties from easy to hard. And yeah, I think that covers the bulk of the game. Do you have any questions?
There's quite a few moving parts.
Yeah.
In the game, but it seems like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's definitely, when we first played it, it definitely felt more overwhelming until we kind of realized a lot of the stuff is performed in the same way. Like all the rolling kind of mechanically works the same. Re-rollings mechanically works the same.
Hmm.
When you really break it down, you're going into here, uncovering these little blue search markers to try to find tools to help your investigation. You're trying
Yeah.
to find clues, and you're trying to get to the ghost whenever it appears. That's like that's summed up in like one sentence, two sentences there.
It seems like a lot of co-op games do that. They overwhelming just because, I mean, a lot of it is just reading cards and reading pieces and doing what they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of pieces and rules is mainly just so that you can have a lot of variety. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's one thing that seems clear about this is the amount of variety. Um, how long, um, how long does the usual game of the? I mean, how long does the game of this last as you've been playtesting it?
It's gonna be based on the experience. Your first game is probably gonna be closer to an hour and a half. If you're being taught the game,
Hmm.
probably an hour and a half. If you've done a little bit of homework and read over it, you might get it a little under that. But I would say your first game or two, while you're learning kind of the mechanics and everything, and everyone's like working together, hour and a half is fair. But uh, once you kind of get into it and you're really familiar with the game, uh, you're probably looking at about an hour. It just kind of depends on the ghost too. That's going to add a little bit of variety.
Hmm.
These little icons are randomized. Like in the digital version, it's all randomized. When you in the physical form, you'll randomize it yourself. So if you accidentally have all of the clues come up early, the game's going to be a lot shorter because ghost mode's going to happen faster, and those rune cards are
Yeah.
going to deplete fast. But generally, yeah, I'd say hour is probably pretty fair.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I don't have a whole lot else. Just looking at um, it's a lot of variety in it and a lot of moving parts, but
Yeah.
um, the theming's really strong.
Yeah,
I really like that.
what's really nice is again my girlfriend's kind of in the whole ghost hunting thing, and a lot of the items thematically how they function in the game, they kind of make sense. So he's done his homework with this game as well. I mean, obviously not everything's going to be one to one, and there's going to be controversy of oh no that's not how it really works, but and when you're trying to gamify something, I think it's there's a lot of logic behind it. It seems to make a lot of sense. And the
Yeah.
fact that there is, like I said, there is a lot of replay with this one, as you kind of mentioned. The fact that we have two boards, we have six ghosts, we also have some ghosts that may or may not be some stretch goals
Hmm.
for the Kickstarter campaign. That there's a lot of different ways. I've yet to play the same game twice, even after playing against the child ghost so many times in a lot of demos that I've ran.
Yeah.
It definitely plays very different each time.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about I don't know how much you have hammered out about the Kickstarter, how much you can reveal, but um, it's gonna so it'll the base version of the game that you can get will be the two maps, the six ghosts,
Yep.
um, and everything that's um, on the table that you can see in this video, right?
Yep. The only thing that's going to be slightly different is in the actual game, like here on the digital version, we have these little square markers that are used for
Hmm.
characters. That's actually going to be the standees. You'll see these little standees down here. Um,
Yeah.
those are actually what you're going to have, and they're going to be on little plastic clips. So you're going to be your clipboard or your chipboard standees. Um, that's actually what's going to be, but we went with the squares just because in a digital space it just works a little
They're
better.
big. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only difference. Like the artwork and everything in this version is like 98% of the way done. He's still working on a couple cards, but I mean, he's been working on this for quite some time. We've actually even already gotten proofs printed out. So, unlike a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
Kickstarters that wait until after the funding's done, we've already had proofs printed of this. We actually have what's going to be the probably final proof coming to us during the Kickstarter. So, we're hoping we'll be able to do kind of an unboxing to show what the actual components in the final version will look like. But for the most part, you're going to have a lot of cards, you're going to have the board, you're going to have all these pieces that you see included. Something we are doing that's going to be limited to the Kickstarter is the company allows us to provide a 10 card promo pack. It's kind of a deal that
Hmm.
they do for us for manufacturing. So everybody who backs the game is also going to get a 10 item promo pack that's going to have a couple extra items in the game. So items, special items. They're going to have a few additional clue cards that add a little variety to the game, and then there'll be a environment card specific to the asylum, an environment card specific to the museum, and then another common. Because these environment decks are 15 cards, but there's 5 that are unique to each map, and then there's 10 that's common
Ah.
that's used in every game. So we're going to be throwing in some more of those for some more variety.
Hmm.
The Kickstarter, the number is not 100% final, but we're fairly certain we're going to be doing $50 for the game, and
Okay.
there are going to be some stretch goals that I don't want to uncover, but anybody who wants to find out what those are can go to the Kickstarter page, follow it, and then when it goes live next Tuesday, October 27th, you can kind of get a little bit of a hint on what those are going to be and how many we have unlocked. This is his first game, so we're not going to have like hundreds of unlockables like a lot of your bigger companies, but for a smaller company, I think it's going to be pretty reasonable. Again, I don't work for John. I'm just kind of passionate about this project, so
Hmm.
I've been helping with a lot of things along the way. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I hope that we can get this thing funded and on some store shelves.
Yeah, and I'll link the some of the links to the websites and different things that you have out in the video, um, and I'll make sure to keep things updated as it goes along, and make sure that the announcement when it drops on the 27th goes out to everybody.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, well, if there's nothing else you want to show me, I think uh, thank you for showing the game off to everybody, to me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess have a good evening.